Do you guys ever look back on something that you did or a mistake you made and really just like wish you had a time machine? Hey, what's going on? It's Dale. I'm coming at you with another video today. This one is about Bitcoin. And I might be a little bit late for the bandwagon, but I'll explain why I'm making this video now later on. Basically, for starters, I just want to get you introduced into the way that I first saw myself with a Bitcoin. This was back in early 2017. And I paid $900 for it, which at the time I thought was expensive. Now, I held on to the Bitcoin for a little bit, but I did end up spending it, and I made a small little profit. I think I got rid of it when it was only worth like $1,000. And at that point in time, I was thinking, okay, Bitcoin has made it up to $1,000. I think that's ridiculously high, and I was paranoid that if I bought another Bitcoin, the price was gonna plummet, because in the past Bitcoin had only been worth in the hundreds. It had never made it up to 1,000. And this was not even a year. This is not even 2 years ago. This was like a year and a half ago. It would have been like, it would have been like early 2017. Like, I'm talking like maybe December 2016, maybe January 2017, somewhere in there. So I spent my Bitcoin and I forgot all about it, didn't think about Bitcoin for another couple months. And it was at some point in the summer when I checked again and I realized that it was up to $4,000. At that point, I thought, okay, Bitcoin is definitely going to start to plummet, because that's all that I've seen with any other thing. Like, when it gets to a high price, people just sell it. But this time it was the opposite. Bitcoin, like, it's so easy to buy it. You just need to download an app. So like, as word started spreading about it, people were buying it, and not really caring like what was going to happen. I think that's called a bubble, when somebody buys something and they don't know like why they're really buying it. Like, they're buying it to make a profit only. So you have some stock that it goes up and it goes down, but it stays about the same, or it goes up at a kind of consistent rate with inflation, or however fast the company starts expanding and making money. And then you have things called bubbles, where the company or whatever the product, say it's gold or Bitcoin, it's becoming extremely valuable, and that's all because there's a ton of people investing, thinking that they're going to make millions of dollars off of it. The problem with that is, if no one's actually buying it to use it or to hold on to it, and everybody who's buying it is planning on selling it at a certain price point, once it starts going down a little bit, or once something happens and people start to think it's not going to go up anymore, the market is completely flooded. And I think that's what happened with Bitcoin. When it hit 4,000, I told my cousin, who I knew was getting invested in Bitcoin, that it might be a good time to sell some, because, hey, 4,000 is the highest I've ever seen it, and it got there very quick. I don't believe she sold at that point, which is good for her, because the next time I looked up Bitcoin, it was worth like 7,000. And then I started thinking, like, my brother was saying that we should get invested, but I kept thinking, no, it's going to drop down in value. But it didn't, of course. It kept going up and up and up. When it got above 10,000, I thought it was going to drop down. It never did. And then finally, it made it up to like $18,000, and I was like, yeah, it's done. It's not going up anymore. And then, sure enough, within like 2 weeks, it dropped back down to like 13, and now I think it's hovering around 13 or 14. And like, the fact that once it made that like $8,000, or like, I don't even know, $4,000 or $5,000 drop from 18 to like 13. Now you hear no one talking about it, and because of that, it's going to fizzle out. It's either going to stay exactly the same, or it's going to be gone. And these other currencies that like kind of are riding on Bitcoin's wake, I wouldn't recommend those either, because the main reason why Bitcoin has gained popularity in the first place was because of the dark web, because it's a completely discrete currency. And if you don't know what the dark web is, I'll have another video out for that. If this video gets 5 likes, I'll do it, because I kind of want to do it anyways. So that's coming soon. But what I was getting at, Bitcoin, the price, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, So when people use Bitcoin on the dark web, they're buying it no matter what these bubble buyers, we'll call them, no matter what their price is driven up to, the people on the dark web are still buying it and constantly using it. So it slows down the rapid descent. But if something like Litecoin, where you can't use it on most dark websites, if that gets up to an extremely high price, maybe the price can plummet a lot quicker because nobody's relying on Litecoin to run a business, whereas there's a lot of illegal businesses being run with Bitcoin. So if no one really relies on Litecoin and they're all only buying it as an investment, as soon as they start selling it, it's going to disappear. And I don't know anybody who's invested heavily in Litecoin. I know somebody who bought like one Litecoin for $300. He probably bought it at like the time where it was like at its peak, but he might make some money off that too, and I hope he does. But I think that's kind of all I'm getting at. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention kind of like why I regret so much what I did. I bought a Bitcoin for $900 and I used it right away. I could have sold it for up to $18,000 if I would have held on to it. I wish I would have just put it on a USB drive and forgotten about it, honestly, because when I found out that I'm just really bummed out about it. But I mean, I'm not gonna let it get to me. It's not like I had like a crystal ball and I could have seen the future anyway. So nobody can predict like what any stock is gonna do at any time or any currency or anything like that. Anybody who thinks they can predict it is full of crap. Don't listen to anybody who says they can predict it. But I think the next thing to look out for is probably going to be self-driving cars, and that's not as like a rapid kind of influx as Bitcoin, but it's going to be something more of a long-term investment. So if you have money that you have set aside that you want to invest, I highly suggest the technology for self-driving cars or the cars themselves. Maybe get involved with a little bit of Tesla investments, anything like that. It should be good for you for the future. Before I wrap it up, I just want to say thank you to my buddy Jose. He made me this for my birthday, or not for my birthday, for Christmas. It's a Slouch Gang hat. It's got SG in Old English, so I think that's pretty sweet. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And other than that, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to close this off. But everybody have a good day.